Okay, and we are back. A brief break. So, okay, we have a lot of things I want to cover today, and I don't want to be taking everyone for hours and hours. So we're going to see if we can pare some of this stuff down a little bit for simplicity. When we talk about dimensions, and we talk about which one are we in. And a lot of us want to define dimensions. Our human's going to want to define a dimension because it's the ego thing. You know, what dimension am I in? Where am I? Am I in 4, 5, 7, 10? You know, and everyone we always think we're higher than we are. That's very common. We always want to set in a dimension and be like, oh, I'm here, not here. I'm here, not here. So we're going to kind of break that out. But we're going to break it out more to kind of quantify it a little bit, but not for comparisons or trying to figure out that it really doesn't matter where we are. But it does help understand the process more when we can start kind of dissecting what can happen in each one. You see a lot of people talking about 4 and 5. You don't see that in people talking about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very few talk about 11 and 12 because very few people are living in 11 and 12. I know like one person, that I only know one person that does that. So I'm not going to focus too much on 11 and 12 because I'm not living in those. So it's not something I can really bring a lot of information in about living it. Touching on it, yes, that's different. Touching on it, anchoring it in, embodying it, those are all different parts of the dimensional process. So, but before I go into that, I want to talk first about a little housekeeping. I'll probably wait and do my live on YouTube sometime in July. So I'll probably do just a big one. Because I haven't been on there live in a few months. Because right now I'm in what I call a slow close. And it's kind of a misnomer because all our realities technically have what they call a slow close. But in different consciousness, we didn't see the slow close. We didn't understand the slow close. We didn't know that's what we were seeing. And the more sight you have, the more you start to understand. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm in a slow close. And that means the reality is winding down. I call it a slow close. But if you can't see the hints that it's winding down, you don't know that's what's going on. So you'll kind of sit there going, not realizing it. Because I've been in a lot of realities, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it just ended like a plunk. And it just ended like that. And I didn't even know. No, we have all the signs, we just didn't see them, right? Because we're not energetically reading the timeline to see it's winding down. It's like when you start getting to the end of a movie, there's always all these signs you're at the end of the movie, but until you are living, you're kind of living that movie. And each timeline's your own little mini movie, and you start seeing the signs it's closing down. People are shifting a little bit. You might start seeing some things you had go, People go, possessions go. You might start being shown to travel here, activation for the next timelines. Because we always talk about the summer solstice being a huge pivotal part, but this year's been weird. So to me, the summer solstice was always seeing what had to go, seeing what we had to clear out. And then we would get to the Lion's Gate. And we got to the Lion's Gate, we started getting to the next year's templates in. You started having an idea of what you were going to focus on. By the time we got to the fall equinox, we were starting to put a lot of those plans in place, but we might not have boots on the ground doing it until, January, February, March of the next year. Actually doing the template, anchoring in the template, doing what we saw we were supposed to do for that linear year. Because to me, there's a linear year. We just don't follow linear patterns on when we get the stuff in. Everybody thinks the new year starts January 1st. The new year starts back summer of the prior year, and for some people, maybe earlier than that. So this year, though, has been weird. It's an 8 year, isn't it? Let me think. Isn't it an 8-year? Yes, it is an 8-year. 2024 is an 8-year. People call it a karmic year for humanity, for the collectives in humanity. A lot of stuff's going to go down in 2024 because it is an 8-year. I don't know. My assumption is because I just that might be why this is off this year, and we're getting stuff a lot earlier. We still feel like a lot of us feel like we haven't finished what we were supposed to do for 2024. We're already starting to see 2025. 2024 is starting to close out, and we're still feel like we have a lot of stuff to do. So it's this little shift this year. It's not the same cadence or pattern, that we normally see. So if you're feeling it is a little bit off, I too feel like this year's a little bit off. It hasn't been as similar as I can look at prior years and see how the slow close started to happen in a lot of realities. In our human realities, we'll say they all collapsed at once. When we're going through awakening in the beginning of ascension, we would say the same thing. Oh, it all closed at the same time. It was awful. Everything closed at the same time. Everything closed down around on me. But there were a lot of indications it was going, but they were vibrational. Some were vibrational, some were physical things moving around. People were moving. You could see it all. But we didn't identify that as the close of a timeline. So once you can identify that as the close of a timeline, you start to get into the consciousness of being able to see it go and the slow close, which, like I said, that's what I call it. You can call it whatever you want to. The swan song of the reality, I guess the epitaph is probably after it's finished, but it's kind of is. And we start to see all these other things because, remember, all these timelines happen concurrently. So you're already experiencing the next one by seeing it because it's in your body. You're unlocking it. So okay, this is going to happen in this time frame. To me, I get time frames like the door opens for this to happen in October, it closes for this to happen in February. And if I'm looking at somebody else's, I know that they can start in October, but if they don't do it by February, then it will collapse. It'll be harsh. In that sense, that's a window we work with. So just keep that in mind. If you're in a slow close, keep that in mind. That's a very common thing. You'll start to see. And sometimes you're supposed to do stuff. Sometimes your universe will kind of do it for you, which my universe has been organically aligning stuff. Now, technically, that's just me doing it. Starting to say, okay, this has got to go. This is not aligned. Let's just start clearing this stuff out. Now because you're going to be shifting soon. And that's another reason we start to not getting really bogged down about them because, what do I have to do right now? Our human would say, okay, I had to do this. Now I got to do all these other things because I had to do this. And I wasn't expecting to do this. Now I got to do this. But because we have the sight to see what's going to be going on in the next 12 months, 3 months, 12 months, 2 years, sometimes it doesn't matter. We can also sit there and say, no, I don't need to worry about that because A, B, and C are going to happen. So I don't need to do that. Someone might give you advice and say, oh, you need to do all these things. You're like, no, I don't need to do any of those because I know these things are going to happen. And those are things we probably won't share. I just know that's for me. That's my information. I know these 4 things are going to happen. I don't need to worry about doing that because these other things are going to happen in this amount of time. But those are not things we see in the beginning parts of ascension. Okay, we just don't see them. We don't have the access to them. So we panic. I did a video on worrying and why we worry because we don't have that sight. Once you start to have the sight, you don't worry about a lot of this stuff anymore. You kind of cease the worrying because you can kind of see how it's going to play out. Will things shift? Yes, I've had things shift. What I didn't understand when I would call something was shifting, technically it is, but it was also, I would say, okay, this is going to happen. I'd get a date, right? Like April 2020, whatever. I didn't understand that my universe was showing that to me, which is really just me. I just call it my universe because that's what a lot of people call it. I like to call it that. And it just gives a little bit of perspective on how you can also communicate with your higher aspects. Call them whatever you want to. They all kind of cumulate into your universe. I would see a date and think, oh my God, that's when I'm going to do it. Not understanding at the time, no, that was the last moment you had to do it. That's when the shit's going to really start to compress you because that's your go time. You can't set in it any longer. You've got to be out by this date. And once I understood, oh, okay, now 2 years after that, I started being able to see dates. I'm starting to understand that. Now I see. Okay, that's the end of it. You got to be gone by that date, but you might be gone earlier than that, but that's your end date. You might see people come back in that are kind of touching base, and you'll see, okay, you're going to be important in 6 or 7 months. I understand why you're here now. You're kind of, we're activating each other's energy fields. I'll talk to you in 6 months. Right now, it's not the right time yet. Everything's not lined up yet, but it will be. So if you're seeing a slow close, some people would say after summer solstice, we're quantum jumping a lot. And you're seeing a lot of stuff that has to do, you're quantum jumping through a lot of different parts of the reality. I think 2024 has been a lot of jumping around. You're starting to see a lot of things that have to get done this week because I'm in the slow close. I had a lot of stuff I had to do this week, so I couldn't record a lot this week. I couldn't do live streams this week because I'm in that slow close. And when you're in that, it just take the time to really look at what's going on. What am I supposed to do? What do I have to do? What is not for me to do right now? Don't waste your time doing that. Your human might be going crazy saying, do all these things, Don't, but then, and other people might say it too. You gotta do all these things because you just did this one thing. Now as a human person, you gotta do all these other things. Don't worry about those other things. They don't matter right now. Because you'll know it's not gonna matter. My old human would have done all this stuff and felt the stress when I was in my human consciousness, even different parts of awakening and ascension. But now I'm like, no, I don't gotta worry about any of that. I don't have to worry about that. That those are all going to take care of themselves later on. So if you're quantum jumping, meaning you're moving very quickly through different things, you're going to see a lot of stuff you got to do. Move through it, close it out, keep moving. Close it out at its highest. If you're seeing something you're struggling with and don't understand why things keep happening the same way, look at the part you're playing in it. Why do you keep allowing it to happen? Why do you stay in it? Why do you keep allowing it? I have so many people that'll say, why does it keep happening? Well, and same thing, I'll say the same thing to myself. Why does this keep happening? Why do I keep letting it happen? Why do I keep allowing this kind of thing? Why do we settle for less than we deserve? Why do we continue to do that? Is it we're doing that with just one person now, where we let them kind of slide? Or are we letting everybody kind of slide? Or have we got it down to, it's just this one person, but because I got a lot of entanglements with this person, I kind of let them slide. But nobody else slides, but it doesn't matter. As long as you let one person slide, you're technically still holding the program, so it's still going to come back and kind of bite you in the bum. So just be aware of those things. Be aware of that we're in a very... Astrologically, a lot of stuff's going on. All the planets are inside of us, so as we activate, all these things get activated, they get activated inside of us. So some people are going to have a harder time with some of this stuff. Some people aren't. I know a lot of planets are coming in. I know Saturn is a big one. I'm not as into astrology as I used to be, so I would give more info there, but like I said, I know Saturn, every time I have to go through anything Saturn inside, it always makes me... It's a very masculine energy, and it makes you kind of really have to go through it. So, but as soon as you step into your masculine energy and start doing it yourself and doing all the shit you see you have to do, you realize Saturn won't affect you the same way because you are, in fact, have become Saturn. And you don't have to have that taskmaster behind you, with the whip and chains, because you're going to do it yourself. You don't have to have it. You don't need that push to do it anymore. It's not necessary. So, all right, which is going to lead me into the dimensional breakdowns. And we're going to focus today on the odds and the evens. I'm only going to go probably to 8 to 9 because once you get to those, one, I haven't really gotten to the other ones yet. I mean, consciousness, yes. Embodiment, no. I've gone, we go past 12 in consciousness, but embodiment's different. We can only embody the 12th dimensions here in the human body. But because I'm still seeing some of it, but not all of it, I'll probably save that for a different time, maybe in months from now. We'll talk about those. We'll talk about 9, 10, 11, and 12. I might do some of 9 today. 10, 11, 12, you get into 12, you get into the oversoul, which is all your higher aspects together. That is what oversoul is. Like in the beginning, when you're in 4, 5, 6, we're kind of seeing all these come in. But once you kind of merge them all together, feminine, masculine, they're really not separated anymore once you get past 8. And you don't have the separation. You might bring one up to deal with something, a certain aspect you might need to bring up, but they don't have the distinctions as much because you've purified everything that wasn't those aspects so they can all fit together like a puzzle. They can all merge back together. And that's kind of your oversoul, but that's getting more in 12th dimension. So we're going to start with the odds, 6, 8, 4, 6, and 8, right? Fourth dimensional realities are not ascendant realities. But they are doing realities. And when you're in the even realities, they are doing realities, okay? That is what everyone talks about 4, 6, and 8, right? You don't say me and 5, but I'll tell you why they talk about 5 in a minute. 5 is the odd, but I'll tell you why they talk about it. No one talks about 7. No one talks about 9. No one talks about them. But boy, 6 and 8, everybody wants to talk about it. So, fourth dimensional realities, you're still 1 foot in each, right? You haven't anchored in fifth dimensional, you haven't let go of third dimensional, which is human consciousness realities, and you're in that middle phase, and it's a long stretch. To me, that is the longest stretch, fourth dimension. Some people call it purgatory. You are in that dimension, you're not sure which way you want to go, you're not sure what to do. You might get into tarot, you might get into Reiki, you might get into any energy discipline. You're all over the place. In a lot of metaphysical stuff, you're everywhere. And that's fourth dimensional. You start to stand up for yourself. You start to stand up for your family, perhaps more, whether it be soul family or whatever, blood family. You start to stand up for yourself with these people. Against, and I'm going to say against. I don't really like that word, but in fourth dimension, you're going to still have that polarization where I'm going to be against this, before this. You're going to still have that. You kind of get over that as you go. But in fourth dimension, it's still kind of very polarized, and you can be in there for decades. Okay, channeling, fourth dimension, spirit guides, fourth dimension. Anyone who talks in these terms, fourth dimension, because there's nothing embodied there. There's nothing. You're not taking it on yet. You're still seeing it all separated. Is channeling important? Sure, because it opens us up for higher consciousness knowledge. It raises our vibration to become that. But channeling is still a separated mentality because we separate off to still go do our human life. We don't stay in it. We don't embody it. We don't bring it down. We don't anchor it in the body. So the body's frequency doesn't move. Until we get to latter parts of fourth dimension. And I did a video about you have different consciousness in the same dimension. Beginning of fourth dimension is a hell of a lot different than the end of the fourth dimension. And if you're with someone and we're all in the fourth dimension, but we don't get along because everyone's in a different place. Everyone's not huddled up in the beginning. Some people are toward the end. Some people are still in the beginning, where they're still very much ingrained in the third dimensional realities. They're not ready to leave it all yet, So it's polarizing. It's standing up for, I don't want to do this stuff anymore, but I'm too afraid to leave it. I don't like it. I'm going to say it's not right. The human realities are not just or not right. And like I said, I'm using a lot of polarizing terms here because that's fourth dimension. But I'm not quite ready to leave yet because I still got a lot of shit over here I do like. I enjoy having the belief systems here because at least it was something solid. Even though I'm starting to see they're all bullshit, at least it's something I understand because it's ingrained in my DNA, right? I haven't purified that yet. So you're still kind of living in third dimensional rules. You're bringing in fifth dimensional consciousness and you're merging in the fourth dimension. And that is very much what it is. It is a mosh posh. Makes you feel like you're losing your mind because some days you feel like, whoo, I want to be outside with people. I want to be around people. You go outside and be around people and you hate them. You don't feel comfortable inside by yourself. You don't feel comfortable outside with people. You're in that very transit place, nothing feels right because you don't feel yourself, but you don't feel like yourself, but you don't really not feel like yourself. It's a strangeness. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like if you go away from home, go to college. That was a big one where a lot of people would notice this, and you come back. You might have just been gone for 5 weeks or whatever. It doesn't matter how long you were gone. It's usually freshman years when you would see it. You come back and you're like, wow, this is just not the same anymore, this is different now. This everything feels smaller. I feel like I've outgrown it. I don't feel at home here. I don't really feel at home at school. I don't know. It's just that's kind of what fourth dimension is, and you kind of sometimes feel like maybe I feel at home here, and then not because your vibration's different, the home's different. Because if its vibration, the people in it, they've shifted, and you didn't shift together. Everyone shifted separately, so everyone's trying to merge back together. That's why when you come home, you're home for months at a time during those first couple years of college, because that's how long it takes everyone to merge back together in a sense, and it gets a little bit better sometimes toward the end when you're supposed to leave again. So we come out of that eventually. And like I said, I see people stuck in that for decades and decades and decades, and they never come out of it. Because some of it is because they start to medium, same thing, fourth dimension, because you're still seeing it separate. You're not seeing it the same. So when you're in these realities and you're still seeing very connected people, sometimes we will see very connected people, but they're still separated. They still see this stuff as outside. It's something, you see a lot of it in the books, the secret books. They're still separated books because it's still a channeling there. No one's embodying in those people as their own. One, because channeling material sells better than embodied material does as far as selling it. People don't want to hear you say, I've embodied this energy and I am that. It's like, oh, can you channel Abraham Lincoln? It doesn't matter. Instead of saying, well, in some aspects, in some reality, I was Abraham Lincoln. So what do you want to talk about? It's just a different mentality, and it's a different part of the process. But fourth dimension's pivotal. Everyone goes through it. It's just how long you take to get through it. Normally toward the end, everything in your fifth dimension, everything in your human reality has gone. Money, how you used to make your money will go. The job you had, your last linear jobs, people will call it their last human consciousness job will go. All this stuff toward the very end, right before you move over, into fifth dimension, which is where you start to feel it. And that's why I will say fourth dimension, you can touch on fifth dimension, you know what it is, and you know the bliss and the magic and the joy and the peace you feel there and the heavenly realities that open up. But you can't live it every day. You can, but if you don't know it's there, you also could get into crystals and dauras, pendulums. There's so many things that happen in the fourth dimension to pull you out of the third, but in the time you don't realize it. You think you're going to still take the fourth dimensional shit and bring it in the third dimension to make third dimension better, but it's just pulling you out of it. It's a slow extract, if we shall say. Fifth dimension, when you do pull out of it, and like I said, you can be here for years, you can be here for decades. That's up to you. It's up to your human plan. I'll see a lot of people that will have kids and still be in the fourth dimension, and kids can kind of slow you down a bit. And I don't mean that as disrespectful to anyone who's having kids or had kids, but because of the responsibility of children, some people wait to go on after the kids are a certain age, go on to the next dimension, because there is a lot of things that happen with sex as you go on. So if you feel strongly, I'm supposed to have kids, I'm supposed to do all this stuff, well, sex is how you have kids. It's one of the strongest ways you have kids. So if you haven't gone to the fact where sex just no longer feels aligned for you because of the DNA commingling you get into in the higher realms, then you're just not going there yet because you feel like you have this contract to bring in these children in. So that's not where you are. So when I say some people stay in this a long time, they're supposed to stay in it. And they might have had chances to get out, but they have the fear and they stay in it. So some people just never get out of that dimension. And like I said, if they have money attached to it, whereas if they're doing certain things and they're medium and they're making money, they're tarot card readers, they're making money like that, to let go of that and then say, well, that's kind of not true. I'm kind of this now. And you have to give those identities up to go on. So when you get to the fifth dimension, and when you get to the odds, so we'll talk about 5, 7, and 9. I'm going to do those grouped together. When we talk about 5, 7, and 9, we start to talk about what is in the purest form, in a sense, which is fifth dimension. And it's not the purest form, but it's the purest form in that time we can see. You feel bliss and magic. You start to experience those realities. You start to experience them more than just once, It's not like you just experience it a little bit. You start to feel it more, see it more, be it more. You start walking in these realities, but you're not anchoring anything and you're just enjoying the bliss and the magic. And when in this dimension, their voices are higher, floatier. They talk about how beautiful the clouds are and everything's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. We're in bliss and magic all the time. Love and light and all that stuff. That's all fifth dimension. It's feminine. It's a feminine, divine feminine reality. All the odds are feminine. 5, 7, and even though 9 to an extent, but actually 8, everything starts to blend after 8. But I still feel like 9 it still has a more of a feminine quality. It's probably one of the first blended ones, but to me, the strongest one you have is probably the one you're going to notice more. Like if you've always been a more masculine doer, you're going to go more with divine masculine energy than, and there's a difference between divine masculine and feminine and divine feminine. There's a difference in that, and we can touch on that, or I might touch on that in a different video. So, but you haven't done anything, because feminine energy, divine feminine, you have to be with stuff. You have to be with the consciousness for at least a year before we can start embodying it in, because we have to clear what's not that consciousness. We have to hold it and bring it in. That's why you can see people who touch the consciousness. That's why we can touch dimensions way above 12 dimensions. But we have to be able to hold it and bring it down. And that's where people start to drop off the ascension train, or slow it down, can get off the ride, because it starts to get harder as they go. And because you have to have that platform of, oh, this feels great. It's kind of like if you're dating someone for the first time, and if it doesn't start off amazing and awesome, why would you continue? It's like, I'm just going to get out now. I'm not going to continue this relationship. It's the same thing with ascension. Even though technically you agreed to it, we all agreed to it, just everyone's time frame is different of when they're going to start. But if you don't see the beauty of it, and the distortion of the other ones, why would you continue? You'd be like, forget about it. I'll just go back here. It's not so bad over back here. I'll just go back here. I don't think I want to keep going, because we have to bust through so much programming. And that's when you get to the even reality. So fifth dimension is just feeling that. It's like, someone in the fifth dimension the minute you see them. You can go back through my old videos and see when I was there. It's fluffy. If you're in a different dimension, you can't listen to it, because it's kind of like fake it till you make it. You're still very much faking it because you haven't done anything yet. You haven't had to let everything go. You haven't had to align your realities. You're just experiencing peace and joy on your own, right? So when you get into the sixth dimension, and we always are going to operate between 3 to an extent. That's kind of the rule. 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, So when you get up to 5, 5, 6, 7. Whereas in 6, now you have to hold the consciousness long enough, the higher consciousness long enough, and certain aspects come in certain dimensions. So you have to hold that aspect of you, and you have to now see, okay, what's not aligned with that? What are my instructions to do here? What is not aligned with this aspect that's coming in fifth dimension? A lot of people get angelic aspects in fifth dimension. You really don't get to galactic aspects to me till you get to about 7. 7 and 8 to me were more galactic. 5 is still soul. Some people go galactic first, but majority of people, I think, do soul first. And where you're not getting so much in your galactic aspects, they come a little bit later, because they do help with the process of severing cords of the soul. The soul, for the soul's journey into getting rid of the human cords for stuff, because the soul doesn't have the cords, but our human consciousness does. So, when you get to the sixth dimension, now we have to start putting it in play, but we're still putting it in play for ourselves. We're aligning our own shit. We're aligning our realities. We're letting a lot of stuff go. Sixth dimension can take a long time too, because we're aligning all of our realities to highest align in that moment, and to completely let all our human realities go. And sixth dimension is rough. Our whole financial system gets really shaken up in the fifth dimension, because we can't bring any of that old tainted money through. And then we're trying to start to appreciate what money is for, but we're still aligning stuff for ourselves. And we still kind of see that separation with money, because you still want to try to build a life, but now we're building in dog years, where took us 7 years of human life to do something, and now 1 year in ascended life is like 7 human lives. It feels like we're going through a lot because we're quantum jumping, we're vibrationally skipping some stuff. We don't want to do, we feel like we don't need to go through it. We're ending things early. We're moving really fast, even though it doesn't feel like it, right? So every time you activate a consciousness, and we're going to activate many, you got to hold it. So you're going to activate it. Now we got to hold it, hold that consciousness. Then we embody it, and we don't embody it till you start to do things in your physical world align with that consciousness and get rid of the things that are not. Those are the even realities. That's what everybody talks about them, because those are the doing realities. Those are the divine masculine realities. Those are the things you have to do stuff. To me, and this is my perspective, to me, I'm more anchoring in the, like in 5, I'm anchoring in a consciousness. I'm feeling that conscious, holding it, but I'm not doing. That's why we have some years where we feel like we're not doing very much. We're just kind of floating, maybe not as much in the 5th dimension, because a lot of stuff's up in the air. We don't even know how to build a lot of stuff yet. That's why you don't get money to build stuff for a long time, because you would build it the same way as we did in our human reality. So we kind of set with this stuff for like really long periods of time on what to do, and we don't even get the money to do anything with. Trying to build a support system back that's aligned, trying to find relationships that are aligned, and those are very difficult to do. Because everyone's in a different place, and we start to see that. It's not just before in our human realities we'd say, oh, everyone's got so much baggage. It's not just the baggage. It's the programming that keeps them to keep carrying the baggage. I don't care about the baggage. It's the root programming that's the problem, because in our human consciousness, people can get rid of the baggage, but still keep doing the same thing to keep picking up more because they're not dealing with the core programming. 6 is where you're dealing with a lot of the core programming. Even when we get into 7, we're still dealing with the core programming. We're clearing a lot, but we might not be doing a lot. We might not be really anchoring and like doing a lot. We can still start to anchor in 7th dimensional consciousness, a God consciousness in that dimension, but we're not doing it. We're not living it till 8th dimension. Where all of a sudden I'm going to take on God consciousness, where now I might share more stuff, with collectives to assist them. Now it's just not about us anymore. When you start getting into the 8th dimension, now we're boots on the ground for others. Whereas 5, 6, we're boots on the ground for us, because we have to, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first until you can help anybody else. You have to get your own vibration up and keep it there. And there's so many different, this is a very broad outline, just to kind of put a little perspective around it. Of why. It's like, how come everyone always talks about the, and not people to even talk about 6 and 8. But when you start to kind of see your shift, and remember your consciousness and your body consciousness, when your body consciousness gets to 8, now all of a sudden you got to live it. A lot of and you also have other things. You're going to be anchoring in one, doing it, and you're going to be then embodying in the consciousness of another one. So you're going to have all this stuff going on at the same time. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to work on this one linear thing. I might be aligning a reality in 6th dimension, right? For me, my own realities based on 5th dimensional conscious, I anchored there, but I'm going to be anchoring in God consciousness. So holding that to then anchor that in when I get to 8, but you're doing everything at the same time. And that's where it can get confusing. And you have a warrior energy in the 6th dimension. It's kind of your own personal warrior, right? I've got to get all this stuff set. It's not the polarity you have in the 4th dimension. Like, that's not fair. That's not just. It's different. Now in the 6th dimension, you're like, this all needs to get aligned. I need to get all my shit straight. 5th dimension, we don't care if our shit's straight. We just want to live in bliss and magic and go out and be in nature. Because the whole part of 5th dimension is getting our vibration up, of our body up. We don't really care about anything. That's why it's hard to work with anybody in the 5th dimension, because they don't want to work. Because they want to be floaty and detached, and they don't want to bring anything down and anchor anything. They just want to live from the higher realms, which we all live from the higher realms, but you have to bring it down so it can purify your lower chakras. Really, those go too, but in a sense, your lower chakras, that's what you're doing. But if you try to work with anybody in the 5th dimension and you're in the 6th dimension, or you've been past the 6th dimension and now you're bored in 7 and 8, you don't want to work with someone in the 5th because they don't want to work. Trust me, somebody who's trying to work with people in the 5th dimension, They don't want to work, but they're not supposed to be working. They're supposed to be enjoying that space. A lot of people get lost in that dimension, and they don't follow the instructions on what to do next. What do I do now? What happens now? Because when you start getting to 8th dimension, that's another doing reality. Now, I think I said this already, but now we're doing it for everybody. And you kind of get out of everything's aligned now personally. Now I just got to keep it aligned, which is easier. Getting the shit all straight is one thing. But, once you get it aligned, you're very picky about what you allow in. Now it is aligned, so now I can move on. And now I can maybe assist others. But you're also going to find in these realities, your realities become very small because you're very picky about what you bring in. And if it's not the highest, there's no reason to bring it in because you don't need it. It's different than the human reality where we take anything, And that's what I mentioned earlier, when we're still in those loops of why does this keep happening? Why do we keep allowing it? What do we need from that we keep allowing this stuff to happen? Get into the upper echelons of these realities, of these dimensions, and you'll start to see, I don't need that. Unless it's going to be very much a benefit, or you can see that you have agreed to do play a certain role in their reality, and that's kind of a different subset of this. There's so many different subsets and parts of it, but unless you see that, and we're very picky. You might be the only one in your reality for a very long time. Normally, you'll be the only one in your reality in the 5th and the 6th for a long time. Or you're going to find it get super duper small. One, because your consciousness is now so far above the typical human consciousness. Human consciousness, people who live in that. Now, everyone has a lot of different aspects of themselves, but if that's their core and that's the one they pull from, and that's the one that's in control, kind of fake control, but to them in control, they're listening to it in a sense, then it's the mouthpiece talking. They're all going to go. They're all going to go. You don't need the tethers anymore. You're starting to see that a lot of this stuff doesn't matter. You still might be going through a twin experience in that matrix, and that's gonna, you're gonna still be going through some deeper programming there on what is respectful and what's not, and that's for us to kind of go through and filter that out. We'll go through deeper parts of a lot of our deeper programs. We just go deeper in to fix them, but to fix them to clear them, Fix is not the word. We're not fixing them, we're getting them out of our body to let more light come in so we can then go on to the different realities. So, if you start to just think of, I'm in a doing reality with this consciousness. So when you're into assisting other people, because your stuff is straight. Now, I see a lot of people that will be out there, I did the same thing. I mean, I did a lot of content when I was not in the realities to like not in, you don't have to be in an 8th dimensional reality to do anything. But that is when you shift to, that's my purpose right now. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. You can still be assisting and doing what feels completely aligned for you in any reality, any dimension you're in. But it's still going to be tainted with certain things you're going through. And I can go back and see a lot of my work the same thing. If I'm going through a certain thing, it bleeds over. So part of you're sharing it to assist yourself to clear it. And part of it, when someone else is in this place, it's going to help them too. Some people don't want to hear, if you're in the 4th dimension, you don't want to, you might not want to hear somebody talk about the 7th dimension, 8th dimension. You don't have an interest in it. You don't want to hear that. You're trying to figure out the 4th. So that's why it was important for me when I was in the 4th to share that. Now, I didn't realize I was in the 4th when I was sharing that. I thought I was in like the 9th or something. Oh my God, I'm so far ahead. That's just the games we play. It's kind of like, what dimension are you in? I remember playing that dimension with people like, oh, you think we're in the 5th? Oh no, we're in the 8th. I'm like, no, we're not. So stupid. I go back and you have to laugh about it because you can see all the distortions still at play. That's why certain people you can listen to, certain people you can't listen to. And some people you can listen to now and you can't listen to later. You can't listen to now but can listen to later because they're going to activate different things going on with you. So Now, once you start getting into 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, your roles are going to shift again, and almost to 11th and 12th to me. And like I said, I'm not experiencing those consciousness wise, yes. Embodiment wise, no. You know, um, but when I feel the consciousness of those, and I'm starting to anchor in the consciousness of those, you start to still see all the things that, even with you're in eighth dimension, ninth dimension, that's still, oh my gosh, that's still not aligned. That's still, I still haven't dealt with that. I'm still carrying something, but like I said, we just keep going deeper in. It just keeps penetrating deeper in, deeper in, deeper in. So no matter where you are, you know, when you're trying to navigate through, and like I said, you might feel one day you're riding high, and then the next day you call plunk. I feel like I'm plucked, and then you go back into a different one. But when you're in the being phases and the being dimension, you don't feel like you accomplished a lot. You know, I would probably say this year I would not. I probably put myself in a more of a being dimension because I don't feel like I had a lot of boots on the ground. Even though in my realities I was, as far as content wise, I don't feel like I really did this year. But like I said, there's going to be just subsets of everything, and it's just to kind of really get a broader picture of why. You know, when you're in a lot of the odd dimensions, you don't even feel like putting anything out. You don't know what to talk about. You're in that. To me, those dimensions are also kind of, you're anchoring, you're embodying, your boots on the ground in some of your aspects, you're embodying in other parts. That's why when we say we operate in 3 different dimensions at a time, because you might have a main dimension you're embodying and boots on the ground in one thing, but there are going to be other parts where you're still just anchoring in, and those are going to feel different. That's why we can't really plan stuff, you know, that far out. We don't know what we're going to really be able to do, and if we're going to be able to do, how do I really feel about that? Whereas in human lives, we kind of feel like I have to do A, B, C, and D. Vibrational realities, it's like, okay, what can my body do today? Like, would I have loved to go on and do 6 videos and record them because I'm going to be out a lot in July? Sure. But one, I didn't have anything I really wanted to share. That was number one. I had nothing. I was like, I don't really got anything. I mean, could I get on and talk about anything? Sure, I could. But, I mean, I had other things I was trying to get done, too. So you really have to listen, like just really listen to be like, okay, what has to get done? What am I supposed to do today? Is there more information that's got to come through before I can do this? I had this video written down yesterday, but a lot of stuff happened yesterday. I couldn't get on and do it. Today, I felt like I kind of could feel a little bit more of what I wanted to say. So whether you're in, even warrior energy will feel different when you're in the 4th dimension. That's kind of warrior energy, but it's very distorted warrior energy than when you get into 9th dimension, 8th dimension, 9th dimension, where you're more into, you know, Archangel Michael warrior type of energy, whereas more you're a warrior for higher consciousness, and you're not a warrior for yourself. You're going to see the shift between 4, 5, and 6 from yourself. 7, 8, 9, let's say we won't touch on 10, 11, 12 right now, but 7, 8, 9, just know 12, you're getting into oversoul. You've embodied them all in at that point. You still work with your programming, but, you know, it doesn't take as long to do it. Because we still can't completely clear a program till the collectives clear it. That's why it's so important for the collectives to come along. It can't just be, you know, what used to be maybe, 100 people, now it's probably thousands of people or tens of thousands of people. But when you're talking about billions of people in the world, whether you have hundreds of thousands of people that are now becoming more conscious, you're still the minority on the planet of consciousness, you know? So is it different than it was, you know, 5 or 6 years ago? Sure. Is it, you know, you still have to look at the majority of the planet and what they have to go through, and that tells you the immensities of what was going to be going on with the collectives to get that. Because all of us were dragged out of our realities. None of us went willingly. We all went because stuff was collapsing. We didn't recognize the slow close, which you will start to recognize. And give it the respect it needs. And enjoy kind of the end of it, you know. Kind of enjoy the ride down. Get excited about the next one, but understand that, okay, this is closing up. This is buttoning up. When things start leaving your reality, slow close. It is a slow close. I got through one thing, and it was a little over 2 years, and that's the quickest thing I've been able to get through. Is usually it takes me closer to 3. 2 is this is the first time I got through something that fast. So, all right, I think this is what. Oh yeah, I've been going long enough. So I will see everyone. I'd like to say when. I don't know. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.